What's up, y'all? How you doing? And welcome back to another riveting episode of Gear for Dummies. Now, today we're going to be talking about something that really I think everybody should have at least a basic understanding of when it comes to setting up your gear. And really, this doesn't have a whole lot to do with actual gear. It has to do with your weapon. Because, let's face it, guys, we can have all the gear in the world. We can have the best plate carrier, the best pouches, the best pack, the best chest rig, the best battle belt, whatever. It's really not worth much unless you know what you're doing with your weapon, how to orient it, how to use it, and how to keep it properly secured. Now, without further ado, today's subject is going to be about rifles. Specifically how to set them up, at least in a basic way, and also how every fighting rifle, in my personal opinion, as an instructor, every fighting rifle or self-defense rifle should be SLO. S-L-O. That is Sling, Light, Optic. Now, of course, that last part is always optional. I know a lot of guys are going to rock and roll like you wouldn't believe just with a simple set of iron sights. In fact, a lot of guys I know, they're still running the old A2 carry handle and the A2 front sight, and they get stuff done with it. So if you can do that, rock on, buddy. But as far as I'm concerned, the best basic way you can set up a rifle is, as I just said, Sling, Light, Optic. Now, why is that? Well, simple answer is force multipliers. Yes, I know, it's a buzzword. It's one of those little catchphrases the military came up with, but it's cliche for a reason. The reason is force multipliers do exactly what the name do exactly what the name entails. They multiply force. And what that means is, if I'm able to walk around my house or around the battlefield with my rifle and know for an absolute fact this thing is not leaving my body, I'll be able to see what I'm shooting at and shoot at it accurately, put those rounds on target without wasting ammo or precious time. That makes you a force to be reckoned with, much more so than if you had just that basic rifle set up, say like an old 30-30, or maybe you got your shotgun tucked away in the corner somewhere, just picking that sucker up and just pointing and shooting at whatever you can see, or even worse, hear. Now, why do I have them in that order? Sling, Light, Optic. Well, very simple. The sling, probably the best attachment you can put on your gun. Definitely the most basic. Definitely one of the first things you should get. Now, I'm not saying get this particular kind of sling. This is a Vickers tactical sling. There's so many good slings out there. Right now, there's a lot of good tactical slings. Have one of the old GI slings like the old guys used to use in Vietnam or even the early 90s. I shouldn't say single point sling. Single point slings, they have their place, but it's a very, very specific place. And I won't get into that right now. I was looking for mine earlier, but I can't find it, so got to do some spring cleaning, I guess. But a sling, at its core, it's basically a holster for your rifle. As you can see right now, my hands are free. Nothing is holding this rifle to my body except for this sling, yet it's still sitting right here. Let me step back from the camera a little. The reason I like having my gun slung just like this is because I can be walking around low ready. Oh no! Now I'm on my target, ready to engage. Now if I have to drop this for any reason, look where it went. That is still slung right across my chest. It's pointed in a safe direction. It's pointed right now. It's pointed to the ground right in front of my feet. You can't see it right now. So no matter what I do, I can move. I can whip around. The sling is holding it tight to my body. I've got it adjusted so that it is tight to my body. Well, it could be a little tighter. And my hands are off it, but it's still in a safe position. It's still out of my way. I can do any of the 5,000 things that I have to do that don't require me to have my rifle into action. But if I need to, it's a simple move. Just to grab that weapon, bring it up. Now I'm in action. And if I really want to, I can turn this 2-point sling, meaning it is attached to my rifle at 2 separate points, as opposed to a 1-point sling, which will only be attached at a single point, usually right here behind the receiver, sometimes on the rail. I've seen them at the back of the buttstock, all kinds of ways you can do it. Again, I don't really like single-point slings. But, if I wanted to, I can now turn this 2-point sling into a single-point sling. Now I've got what I call a tactical necklace. This sling is right around the back of my neck. The gun is hanging here by my neck. I can still do all of those things, although you notice I don't have nearly as much control. That's because I have sacrificed stability for maneuverability. Because right now what I can do is I can bring this gun up, I can move, I can switch shoulders, And I can switch hands very easily. And if I need to, I can just drop it, rock and roll, whatever I need to do. But I still have all the freedom of movement I would have with a single point sling. But now I still have the ability that if I want to, I can slip my arm back through here. Now I have that stability of the 2-point sling, stability, reliability, rigidity rather. Now this is my preferred setup. I like 2-point slings because it's quite simply, guys, keeps the gun where you want it, doesn't let it go where you don't want it to go. And I've got this sling positioned right here at the back of the rail, where a lot of guys do nowadays, and I can really maneuver this gun almost however I want. All I have to do is loosen it up a little with this little tab. Now I can also move this to the front of the rail, loosen this up a little. So now I've got pretty much the same range of motion, but what I don't like is that now the sling is in the way. If I've got gear on, this could get snagged. It's a good thing because if I'm presenting this gun out and it's a little tighter, now I've got sling tension on my forearm, but I'll get into that into a different video. Basic point here, guys. Slings keep the gun tight to your body. Again, holster for your rifle. Think of the way you holster your sidearm. Every time you reach for that pistol, it's in that holster. You know exactly where it is, or you should if you have a good holster and it doesn't move. So the same should hold true for your rifle. If I'm holstering my rifle, meaning I have the rifle up, it is presented, now I want to put it down. Gun is holstered. Oh, one more thing to touch on. If you have a good 2-point sling that fits very well to your AR-15 and it's fitted properly to your body, let's say you don't want this gun in front of you at all. Gun is completely out of my way. All I had to do was sling it to my other shoulder, bring my arm through, and do that little single point maneuver I showed you earlier. Now I am completely slick in the front. If you're wearing kit, this would be a little harder, but I'm not wearing kit right now, so just for demonstration purposes. Now the gun is actually slung across my back. I cannot get to that gun, but if anybody tries to get to that gun, the sling is attaching it to me. They can't take this away from me. This is anchored to my body, it's pointed in a safe direction, and I can do whatever I need to do. No problems. And also I touched on another thing. If you have your gun slung, meaning it is attached to you, let me get this back around here. So this gun is attached to me. So if I'm moving around my house and I'm engaging Mr. Bad Guy, I'm going. Where is he? If he just tried to take my gun away from me, he's not getting it. It is attached to me. He can't turn it against me because the barrel is too long. He can't hit me with my own stock because he doesn't have enough space to get the proper force. And also, if we're grappling, I have all the leverage here. If I want to, I can just let this gun go, let him have it for a second. Now I can get hands-on with him without worrying about losing my gun or having it turned against me. Now, he can drop the mag. Maybe he can rack the bolt. He can rip my optic off. I don't care. He's still not getting this gun. It is attached to me. And if I can get hands-on, push him back, get control of my rifle back, boom, boom, that guy down. So, moving on from slings to lights. Why do we want a light on our gun? Well, extremely simple, guys. Just as this ring light is shining a light on me right now, well, light on your gun sheds light on whatever it is you're pointing your gun at. Very important thing. One, basic rule of firearm safety. It's one of the top 4. Always know your target and what is beyond it. Now, if you're walking around your house, say it's midnight, 1 a.m., it is pitch black outside, say you don't have any street lights, your house, if you're anything like me, I live out in the country, if you're anything like me, your house is dark. I mean, it is midnight black out here. So, I don't have any light sources. Maybe you have a street light outside. Maybe you got candles. Maybe you got, appliances lighting up the room or something. But let's just say you are in an environment where you are not able to see a thing. Now, maybe you can have a handheld light. That's awesome. You can have it in one hand, shine it around. But look at this. This is really awkward if you're handling a long gun. This is why they started putting lights on weapons to begin with. Because this rifle is in my hands. Let's say I'm searching my house, okay, it's dark. Now I can see what I'm looking at. Now just to illustrate this point, let me flick this light switch off over here. Notice how dark it got. Now I'm going to take this handy dandy remote and I'm going to turn the light off on my ring light. Can't see a thing, can you? I can now. Now wherever this light is shining is where my gun is pointing. You can actually train yourself in low light environments that if you look through your optic, even if the light washes out your red dot completely, if you just see that orb of light, or if you're looking over your light, that's one reason I have mine mounted the way it is. As long as I can look through that light and see my target, the rounds are going to go roughly where I want them to go. Let's turn this back on here. So this is exactly why you want a good light on your rifle, or failing that, your self-defense handgun. Because if you can't see the target, you can't shoot the target. If you can't shoot the target, you can't put the target down. It's as simple as that, guys. So if you have a combination of a sling and a light, really you're almost good to go. Because as I said, I know a lot of people who can just use a basic rifle setup with a basic old school iron sight setup, and they can rock and roll with that thing all day long. I've seen guys do CQB, do intermediate to long distance. I've seen guys pit the ace on a bullseye target from 500 yards with open sights. It can be done. Can everybody do it? That's the question. Yes, it can be done. Would I want to do it if I had other options? No. Because the reason we want optics on our weapons is because optics were really a game changer when they came into the combat world and later on into the civilian market. Because what optics do, like say this reflex sight, this is a Holosun 510C. If I can get it positioned just right here. Okay, yeah, it's kind of washing out. What it's doing is I have a flat screen here on the front of my optic. There's an emitter in here that is emitting the image of a dot with a circle around it, the old donut of death, my preferred reticle. And it is projecting that onto the screen. So rather than presenting my rifle, having to look through my rear sight, line up the front sight onto the target and squeeze off my shot, now all I have to do is throw this up. I see the dot, put it on target, boom. So it takes a process that used to take roughly half a second to a second, makes it instant. The human eye can only focus on two things at one time. And look it up, it's true. So if you only have two images lined up in front of you, there's your target and then your dot. When your eye sees that dot and see that it's on position, or that it's in position on your target, squeeze that trigger. The round is going to go where you want it to go if that optic is properly zeroed. It takes a process that goes from, okay, up, front sight, rear sight, front sight, boom, to now it's up, dot, boom. Optics are a game changer. I don't care how good you are. It could be an extremely skilled shooter with open sights versus a novice shooter with a red dot. The novice shooter will put rounds on target faster than the skilled shooter. It is just physical mechanics. It's the way the human eye and the human brain works. Now, you don't always have to go with a red dot depending on what your situation is. Now, of course, most of us are going to be engaged for home defense purposes, rather. We're going to be engaged in very close range combat. This is down the hall, across the room, maybe across the house if you have a big wide open space. Maybe, just maybe, you may have to go out into the street or out onto your property and defend yourself and your family from, I don't know, marauding bands of looters who are out to just riot, kill, and destroy. You never know. Could happen. And so a red dot is really useful to have on your weapon because they're generally good out to about 100 yards. Now, yes, I have made shots out to 300 yards with a simple red dot, but that's because I have taken the time to actually go out and build my dope cards. That is data of previous engagements. I've gone to the range, I've made notes, I know exactly where to hold this dot, I know exactly how to adjust it to the range, and that will come with training. I highly advise everybody to go out there and do that. Now, let's say you don't want a red dot, say you want some other kind of optic. Now, I'm a poor, ladies and gentlemen, so I don't have a lot of the latest whiz-bang stuff, so forgive me for my next visual demonstration. I'm going to use an airsoft gun. And here we have what's called an LPVO. And yes, this is a cheap little 1-4 that I just threw on this red dot just for aesthetics, and also I wanted to test out the I've always been curious about LPVOs. I think I am going to dip my toe in the water and actually go out and buy a good one. But for now, this is all I got. But just for demonstration purposes, this is a good one. What an LPVO does is if it's dialed all the way down to 1 power, right now it's on 1 power. This isn't nearly as good as some of the actual ballistic level scopes, but if you get a good one, you should be able to look through that scope just like you're looking through a red dot. Both eyes open, put the dot or the circle on the target, boom, squeeze off your shot. Now, if you were to crank this baby up to 4 power in this case, most of them out there on the civilian market right now are 1 to 6. They make 1 to 10s, 1 to 12s, but they're going to get uber expensive on you. What that does is, now I'm looking through 4x magnification. I am staring at a blank splotch of color on the wall. If I can dial this back down to 1 power, I can look through this like a red dot. It even has illumination if I want, but normally they're not that bright. Now what this allows you to do is you go from a close engagement, step outside to a far engagement, crank up that magnification, now you can put rounds on target from an extended range. And for an AR-15 platform, not this one of course, it's an airsoft, but for an actual AR-15, that's going to put you out to about 300 to 500 yards, or meters. Now it'll depend on your skill level, depend on your weapon of course, depend on your ammo, all these other factors. Point being, these kind of optics can really extend your capabilities. You can go from close range to distance with just the flick of a switch. It's also why I like running a red dot with a magnifier behind it. That's always been my preferred setup. But magnifiers only give you 3x magnification, so at about 300 yards, you're good. 500 yards, it starts getting iffy. So, in closing guys, when you set up your rifle, and you can put whatever rails, whatever accessories, whatever grips, whatever stocks, whatever stuff you want on your rifle. The 3 things you should do first, in my honest opinion. Make it slow. Sling, light, optic. And it can be any kind of optic, it can be any kind of sling, it can be any kind of light. As long as you can attach this weapon to your body, where it cannot be taken away from you. As long as you can illuminate the area in front of you so you can see your target, identify your target. That's another big one. If you're walking around your house with one of these babies, trying to seek out that bump in the night, looking for Mr. Bad Guy, let's say you hear a bump right in front of you and you just start spraying rounds all over the place. Well, then you flick on the light switch and realize, oh no, that wasn't a murderer out to kill my family. That was my 6-year-old looking for a glass of water. But you fired because you couldn't see him. That's why lights are so important, whether it's attached to your weapon, whether it's handheld, whether you're flicking on a light switch. Do not squeeze that trigger until you know exactly what you're shooting at, you know exactly who it is, you know exactly what their intentions are, because you can't call back a bullet. But I digress. But as long as this weapon can be attached reliably to your body and you can retain this weapon reliably, get a good sling. As long as you can see what you're shooting at, you can identify your target, get a good light. Optics, again, you don't need them, they're not a necessity, but boy do they make it so much easier and make it so much faster. And when seconds count, guys, when life and death can be decided in portions of a second, every advantage you can get is the advantage you want. When you're going into a fight for your life, there is no fair fight. It does not exist. When you're fighting fair, you lose. So, I guess that's all I got for you tonight, guys. Stay quick, stay accurate, and stay frosty, my friends.